Welcome to the Public Information Center for the Concept Development Study of Operational Safety Improvements to South Laurel Avenue, County Route 52, at the Railroad Bridge, located in the townships of Holmdel and Middletown in Monmouth County. The in-person presentation was held on June 27th. This recording will be available through August 28th, while the comment period is open. Contact information for any comments or questions will be provided at the end of this presentation. This presentation will include an overview of the project. We will cover the project history and background, the limits of the study area, the existing structures within the study area, environmental constraints, traffic studies, existing deficiencies, crash history, purpose and need statement, local input, followed by a Q&A. If you are watching the YouTube recorded video, any questions can be emailed by August 27th. The contact information is provided at the end of this presentation. This South Laurel Avenue concept development project began in 2005 when Holmdel Township received an $800,000 federal grant as part of the Safety Act. However, the project was too large and complicated for the township to advance at that time. The grant focused on the horizontal and vertical clearance of the New Jersey Transit Bridge over South Laurel Avenue, which carries 2 electrified railroad tracks of the North Jersey coastline. Monmouth County Division of Engineering and Traffic Safety has assumed responsibility for administering the federal process for this project and progressing it forward in the concept development phase. This project is being advanced under the NJDOT Capital Project Delivery Process, which includes 4 phases that take a project from concept development through construction. This project is currently in the concept development phase, which includes development of the purpose and need statement, data collection, and selecting a preferred alternative with local and stakeholder input. This phase must be completed before advancing into the project design phases, and subsequently the construction phase. At the close of concept development, a decision is made as to whether or not to advance the project into the subsequent design phases, which include preliminary engineering, final design, and then construction. Each step typically takes 18 months to 2 years. Most of you should have received the community survey in the mail, which was distributed as part of the data collection portion of this concept development phase. The responses to that survey provided the project team with valuable insight as to what the locals' concerns are within the project corridor. This Public Information Center is one of the important steps in identifying the needs and wants of the property owners within the vicinity of the project area, and allows the public to have input on the various alternatives that will be investigated as this concept design phase progresses. Of course, impacts within the project corridor, such as bridge replacement and widening of existing culverts, right-of-way, and environmental resources will be evaluated. However, it is important for the public to provide their input. This project location map shows South Laurel Avenue, which serves as a major connection between the Garden State Parkway at exit 114 and State Route 35. The project limit at the north end is Commons Way, and the project limit at the south end is AT&T Drive, as signified by the green arrows. The project length is approximately 1 mile. Within the project limits, there are several large residential developments, Bow Ridge condominiums, Cedar Village at Holmdel, and Laurel Green condominiums, as well as retail, Commons at Holmdel, and commercial, AT&T Labs. Additionally, this map identifies the 4 existing culverts that convey stream crossings under the South Laurel Avenue roadway within the project limits. As you are all probably aware, the bridge carrying NJ Transit's North Jersey coastline over South Laurel Avenue is hit frequently. This is due to its low vertical clearance. The county has installed numerous signs warning of the vertical clearance, but the crashes have continued. Here are additional pictures of the structure. The top left picture is looking southbound along South Laurel Avenue towards the north side of the bridge.
The bottom left picture is looking northbound at the south side of the bridge. NJ Transit reconstructed the south side of the structure last spring under an emergency repair contract after a truck struck the bridge heading northbound on South Laurel Avenue. The southern half of the superstructure required replacement due to the severity of the impacts. The yellow warning markings have yet to be added to this side of the bridge. Substandard design elements at the bridge include narrow lanes, lack of shoulders, and lack of sidewalks, which raise safety concerns for drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians. This hourglass configuration of Laurel Avenue is a focus of this project.
There are 4 culverts within the project limits that carry tributaries to the Mahoris Brook underneath the roadway. These are important for the public to be aware of as the concept development phase of this project progresses. The stream presents environmental constraints that will be evaluated when developing various alternatives as part of this concept development study. Their northernmost culvert is located north of the NJ Transit Bridge. Structure H43 is comprised of twin 60-inch corrugated metal pipes, which are severely corroded, and the timber head walls are deteriorating. The second culvert, known as H9, is located within the vicinity of Stephen Court. This culvert is comprised of a 48-inch concrete pipe that crosses South Laurel Avenue on a skew. The third crossing is structure H35, which is a box culvert located south of Boxwood Terrace. This culvert carries another tributary of Mahoris Brook under the roadway. The fourth culvert, structure H35A, is located near Continental Boulevard, which is an entrance to Bow Ridge condominiums. This culvert is a 60-inch reinforced concrete pipe, which also conveys an unnamed tributary of Mahoris Brook. As you can see, there are several environmental constraints within the project limits along South Laurel Avenue. These include the tributaries to Mahoris Brook, shown in blue on the map, their associated wetlands as identified in the green crosshatch, riparian zones identified in the blue dot hatch, threatened and endangered species, as well as the New York and Long Branch Railroad Historic District identified by the pink circle and square on this map. NJDEP recently approved more restrictive permitting regulations, which will expand the limits of the riparian zones and the requirements to manage stormwater. There are 2 retaining walls within the project corridor. One is located along the northbound side of the roadway between Continental Boulevard and Tall Timber Road, and the other is along the southbound side of the roadway within the same limits. A traffic analysis was performed along South Laurel Avenue. The traffic study corridor extended from New Jersey Route 35 at the north end to Garden State Parkway Interchange 114 at the south end. However, the project study area is limited to the corridor between AT&T Drive and Commons Way. The project limits are depicted in red on this map. Future traffic data was developed using existing traffic data collected prior to the pandemic, grown to the build year of 2045 using regional traffic models. This slide shows the capacity analysis for various levels of service and the respective signalized intersection delay. Level of service, also known as LOS, is a qualitative measure used to relate the quality of motor vehicle traffic service. Level of service is used to analyze roadways and intersections by categorizing traffic flow and assigning quality levels of traffic based on performance measure, like vehicle speed, density, and congestion. Level of service A has the least amount of delay. Level of service is categorized using letters A through F, with A being the best and F being the worst, similar to academic grading. The delay is computed for each approach and movement, and then averaged for the intersection. As part of the traffic capacity evaluation, the signalized intersections between the Garden State Parkway at exit 114 and Route 35 were evaluated using the 2045 traffic volumes. The signalized intersections within the project limits operate at level of service A or B, as signified in the red box on the screen. These include the AT&T Bow Ridge Drive intersection at the south end of the project and the Commons Drive intersection at the north end of the project. The two-lane roadway under the railroad bridge was also evaluated and is forecast to operate at a level of service E. There are numerous existing deficiencies along South Laurel Avenue within the project limits of AT&T Drive and Commons Way. These include the following substandard items: vertical clearance at the NJ Transit Bridge, the lack of shoulders, substandard bridge width, cross slopes, lane widths, as well as non-signalized intersections stopping sight distance, substandard vertical curve stopping sight distance, the lack of bicycle and pedestrian access throughout the corridor, as well as crash rates that exceed the statewide average. Crashes were evaluated along the South Laurel Avenue corridor. The crash analysis and traffic studies use data from 2017 through 2019, as they use pre-pandemic traffic volumes and are more representative than the current years. The crash data identified numerous crashes at the NJ Transit Railroad Bridge. In addition, there were several crashes at other intersections within the project corridor, as identified in the table on the screen. As shown on this pie chart, 50% of the crashes were same-direction rear-end crashes, which are the most frequent type in the United States, and are caused largely by driver inattention and vehicles following too closely. The second largest portion of crashes were fixed object crashes at 30%. This would include any strikes to the NJ Transit Bridge, followed by same direction or sideswipe crashes at 8%. Sideswipe crashes are the second most common type of crash in New Jersey, but the fixed object crashes were obviously much higher within the project area. Other less frequent crash types include opposite direction or head-on crashes, left turn or U-turn crashes, and animal crashes. The next few slides show crash diagrams within the project limits. These illustrate the types of crashes and the locations where they occurred. On this slide, you can see that there were 4 crashes near the AT&T Drive intersection. 2 were rear-end crashes, 1 was a sideswipe, and the other was an animal. This slide illustrates one sideswipe crash that occurred in the vicinity of Tall Timber Road in the northbound direction. This slide illustrates a variety of crash types with 2 rear-end, 1 fixed object, and 1 out-of-control crash in the vicinity of Boxwood Terrace in the northbound and southbound directions. This slide shows 17 crashes at the NJ Transit Bridge and near Stephen Court. During the 3-year period, there were 10 same-direction crashes reported on the bridge approach in both the southbound and northbound directions, signifying 10 times that the bridge was struck. In addition, there were 5 rear-end crashes, 1 sideswipe, and 1 right-angle crash, as well as a variety of crashes that occurred in both directions south of the bridge near Stephen Court. This slide illustrates 2 rear-end crashes that occurred in the vicinity of Avon Drive, 1 in the northbound and 1 in the southbound direction. At Commons Way, 7 rear-end crashes were reported, along with 1 sideswipe crash. This slide identifies the pre-pandemic traffic volumes in the project area. The volumes at the railroad bridge are highlighted in the red box. Note that the volumes in the southbound direction are higher during the morning peak hours and higher in the northbound direction during the afternoon peak hours, since Laurel Avenue provides direct access to the Garden State Parkway at interchange 114. This slide identifies the year 2045 traffic volumes that are anticipated using traffic projections. The volumes at the railroad bridge are again highlighted in the red box. These projected volumes are used to identify the need for additional lanes along the South Laurel Avenue corridor within the project limits. The purpose and needs statement is the foundation of every transportation project and is a key component of the concept development phase. Information collected during this phase is critical to the development of the purpose and needs statement and establishes why the project is being advanced. The purpose developed for the South Laurel Avenue project states, the purpose of the project is to eliminate the horizontal and vertical deficiencies at the railroad bridge to allow for safety and operational improvements along South Laurel Avenue, County Route 52, from AT&T Drive to Commons Way. The project need documents the transportation deficiency or problems identified during the data collection phase, and the goals and objectives are the primary improvements that the project should address. It is the key factor in determining the range of alternatives to be considered, developed, and evaluated to determine if the alternative meets the project purpose. The project need includes the following. South Laurel Avenue between the project limits does not currently meet the design standards for vertical and horizontal clearance at the railroad bridge, intersection sight distance at unsignalized intersections, as well as lane and shoulder widths. South Laurel Avenue does not comply with Monmouth County's Complete Streets policy. Narrow shoulders and the lack of sidewalks are not conducive to bicycle and pedestrian safety. Additionally, crash data indicated that crash rates are higher than the statewide average for both head-on and fixed object collisions. Goals and objectives. In addressing the project's purpose and need, design of the project will also consider additional goals and objectives via stakeholder and public outreach, such as this Public Information Center. While the project may not be able to fully satisfy all of these additional goals, as many as possible should be addressed. They are as follows. Improve horizontal and vertical clearance at the NJ Transit Bridge, alleviate the hourglass configuration at the bridge, improve pedestrian and bikeway accessibility, improve truck movements within the corridor, address existing concerns with the 4 culvert bridges within the project limits, minimize or eliminate potential NJ Transit service interruptions during construction, and reduce crashes and delays along the project corridor.
A community survey was mailed out in late December. The survey was mailed to property owners, retail owners, condo HOAs, and businesses along the project corridor within Holmdel and Middletown Townships, in addition to stakeholders, which includes local officials, schools, engineers, emergency services, and NJ Transit. We received 11 responses to the survey, which help us get a better understanding of the concerns that the local property owners have with the project area, as well as gain an understanding of what they would hope to see come out of a project along this corridor. On this slide, you will see some of the results from that survey. Primary concerns were safety and high speeds, narrow roadway and lack of sidewalks, and low vertical clearance at the railroad bridge, as well as local roads being used for detour routes. The lack of shoulders and sidewalks makes it unsafe to walk or bike along South Laurel Avenue.
The next steps within the concept development phase of this project are as follows. To develop and evaluate the alternatives. As previously noted, the alternatives will be developed and evaluated to determine if they satisfy the purpose and need statement. We develop this statement before we develop the alternatives. Therefore, our alternatives will address the horizontal and vertical clearance at the railroad bridge, lane and shoulder widths, and the lack of sidewalks. We will then present the developed alternatives to the local officials and then subsequently follow up with another public information center where we will present the alternatives to the public. Then we will select the preferred alternative. The concept development process will then be summarized and presented to determine if it can advance to the next state of the project delivery process, which is preliminary engineering.
This presentation will be available on both Holmdel and Middletown Township websites, as well as Monmouth County's website through August 28th. Any comments or questions can be emailed to Nicole Pace-Adeo through this date.